Hey neighbor, welcome back to Beyond ARTV. My name is John, and today I want to talk about Muse and my very complicated feelings with them that have developed from me calling them one of my top 10 favorite bands of all time to kind of feeling like I'm starting to fall out of love with them. And part of my brain has been wondering, is it just because you don't like the recent songs or maybe the recent few albums? And the answer to that is yes, I have had very divided feelings despite enjoying some tracks on the likes of Simulation Theory. An album like Drones definitely was one that I did the opposite of grow on. I found myself loving it at first, but not really coming back to it to the point where at this time I just feel like there's only 4 or 5 songs that I would listen to and really love and enjoy at all. I find Muse to be this melodramatic band that when they get it right, the switch is there. It's dynamite, and the proof is in a lot of the big 4. And for me, the big 4 might not be the big 4 that you're thinking of, although the 3-album run from Origin of Symmetry, Absolution, Black Holes, and Revolution, of course, those are often considered the classics, but The Second Law is in there for me as well. I think that album still holds up. But I think the divide started coming after The Second Law. The 2010s were definitely difficult. I'm not really a fan of the Resistance, which is weird because I know a lot of people love the symphonic elements in that album. I was of the mindset that there was too much repetition, too much artsy stuff that felt drawn out for the sake of trying to be proggier without really doing a ton of actual convincing work to make me buy into what they're doing. And while The Second Law, I think, succeeded because of how off-kilter the screws were loose, they were doing something new, and while it was capitalizing on the trends of electronic at that time, I think it still holds up because they put their heart into it and turned on the gasoline. There's distinctive bass lines, there's great guitar work, and I really like some of the lyrical takedowns that I think Matt Bellamy really brought to the table. Now, what changed in the years after The Second Law? Well, they just continued needling at the same little niche that they've been needling at for years. It's like a grandma knitting a sweater, as Muse talk about the authoritarians and this invisible force that are weighing us down, and mind control, the government, and oh no, new technology, what are we gonna do as we float out into space? And that's kind of been Muse's thing, and I understood why a lot of people criticized them for it back in the day, but I think the older I get, the more the criticisms actually start to affect my enjoyment of it, not because somebody else told me, oh, this is the problem and you need to throw out all your CDs and burn them. It was more so because I actually started to not come back to their music as much, and I started to ask myself the question, why is that? And I think a lot of it does boil down to the cheese factor, the fact that they can just be extremely corny. I mean, I never came to Muse for lyrics in the first place, but the older they get, the less fortunate the lyrics become, if that makes sense. It's just like, oh god, Matt, really? Okay, we're going into this mode again. We're gonna talk about this dystopian society, or oh no, it's futuristic. And I understand why albums like Simulation Theory are the way that they are. They had this kind of futuristic, oh, this is possibly what could be coming, and the alternate dimension, and VR, and everything like that. It's weird to see them get more caught up in image than actually having convincing lyrics or production to actually back it up and make things distinct. I think that Muse are at their best when everybody can be heard evenly, and as a trio it's so important for the drums to be fire, for the bass lines to be striking, and for the guitars and vocals to be sharp and on point to actually feel like they have something to say. And at the time, I was planning this video, planning to talk about this and just kind of open up with my complicated feelings on camera, because I know a lot of you love my Muse content and have enjoyed when I've talked about and praised this band in the past. And maybe you felt a little bit confused or blindsided when I did an episode of I Got It Wrong on Drones, or maybe when I kind of tore down Simulation Theory and have repeated my not enjoyment of it, to put it kindly. I think I do see that perspective, and I can see why people still hold on to them, but I feel like they're kind of circling the drain in terms of not really pleasing the fans, but giving them enough of what they might want to actually keep them on board or hoping. And right when I was about to start filming this video, there is an HQ like soundboard quality drop of Kill or Be Killed, a song that they performed live at the Rock'em Ring. Is that how you say it? Rock AM Ring? I've always had that question, and I've never had an answer because I've been too lazy to look it up. But essentially, they performed this song, they debuted it live, and holy fucking shit, it's classic Muse. It's exactly what we know them for, especially on the big three: Black Holes, Absolution, Origin of Symmetry. It harkens back to those days and then some. It feels progressive. It has an aggressive breakdown in the song. It really doesn't feel like anything that I've heard from them since at least Black Holes and Revelations. I say this so many times, but to know that you were still capable of turning up the heat like this and just having us chilling out in the kitchen or else room temperature, not cool, Muse, not cool. Because I know this new album, Will of the People, is supposed to be a little bit of everything. Different genres, different styles. No two songs are going to be exactly alike, which great, but at the same time, I struggle to believe that this album is going to be anything but an uncohesive train wreck. But this is coming in as possibly a huge soft spot in there that I am just going to let take over the blackness of my darkened heart. I think this is one of those tracks that kind of makes me forget about the cringes of Compliance and also the chanting of Will of the People that won't leave my head. And I have to wonder, after hearing Kill or Be Killed, do we not look back to these other songs and say, hey, this is the bullshit that they're normally giving us. Why can't they actually put their gusto, their heart on the line and do something like this, where not only does the music sound badass, that was the biggest thing that I loved about Won't Stand Down, I like the music, not necessarily the lyrics. This actually has it all. It feels like the commentary is a little bit more nuanced, and maybe they're trying to have some depth to it instead of just saying, we want your compliance, oh, this is what they want from you, you better not bow down. That's just what I'm so sick of, and why I do feel like in many ways I have untethered myself to Muse, to falling out of love with them, to falling away from them instead of with them. I think they're one of those bands that the more you listen to other groups that they drew influence from, like Radiohead, you can maybe find yourself questioning, well, did I always love them as much as I did? And the answer to that is yes. I've erased my doubt in that department because I feel like Muse definitely solidified themselves. I've gone back to these big three albums, and not just to needlessly forget about Showbiz. I think there's great stuff on there. Some of my favorite tracks like Sober and Uno live there. But also, these three are just knocking bangers, top to bottom. I even bought the 20th anniversary remix edition of the Origin of Symmetry, and it's fantastic. I love the artwork for it too. But these albums, just nothing but bangers. I love the apocalyptic themes and how they are able to translate their level of poppiness, rockiness with hints of prog. And we just don't really get that on their other albums. So it's not necessarily me falling out of love with the band entirely, is just saying, well, I guess I kind of drew a line in the sand and I started to get older and not have a connection or even a nostalgia for like the likes of Drones or Simulation Theory, and that's why there is this almost invisible line, or else this mountain that I'm unable to climb with Muse, at least in their current day. So regardless of how good Kill or Be Killed or even other songs on Will of the People might be, I do think that my relationship with Muse has changed, and I'm curious to know, has this affected anyone else? How do you feel about this band in particular? Because I know they can be divisive, and I know that they have legions of fans that still love absolutely everything they do. Sometimes people like the cheesiness, and they think it's a little bit more fun to see a science fiction edge where Muse are just going cheese fest galore. But leave your thoughts in the comment section down below. This is just my feelings that have developed over time in terms of feeling like I've drifted away from the band, but I've not entirely fallen out of love with a lot of what they've given us in the past. Please hit that like button, check out more of my Muse videos on screen, and I'll see you soon for more on One Take TV.